en place pour assurer la stabilisation pour un développement durable. Pour ma part, en introduction, je dirais que en ce qui concerne cette stabilisation, le tout sécuritaire n'est pas la solution finale. Certes, les questions sécuritaires pour le moment nous intéressent énormément parce qu'il faut défaire totalement Boko Haram militairement, mais aussi pour avoir une stabilisation, il faudrait que cette dimension sécuritaire soit maintenue, avoir des équipes des groupes bien équipés, des armées bien formées pour assurer la sécurité, car quand il n'y a pas de sécurité, il n'y a certainement pas de développement. Mais en même temps, nous allons toucher à l'autre aspect qui est naturellement le relèvement rapide des régions affectées par Boko Haram. Et donc, ici, nous allons avoir la possibilité d'écouter nos partenaires qui sont avec nous. Et je ne voudrais pas être trop long en introduisant donc ce thème, puisque nous aurons 45 minutes. Ils doivent nous permettre d'abord aux panélistes de donner leur point de vue et ensuite quelques minutes pour que nous puissions échanger et avant d'avoir les perspectives des gouverneurs qui sont directement concernés par le phénomène de Boko Haram dans les différentes régions dont ils ont l'honneur de diriger les destinées. Donc, sur ce point, je voudrais m'arrêter ici. Et
very sincere apologies. We'd like to invite to please come up for the panel discussion the UN Permanent Representative of Nigeria, Professor Bande. Please could he
apologize sur ces différents points, mais nous voulons souligner seulement que l'appui aux efforts nationaux, régionaux et multilatéraux dans l'élaboration de stratégies de stabilisation régionale et le soutien aux efforts visant à la réhabilitation du niveau des eaux du lac Tchad et autres aspects qui doivent être déterminés. Nous continuerons donc à mobiliser les énergies et avoir un programme transversal de développement dans les régions. Mais je voudrais maintenant peut-être donner la parole aux autres panélistes qui sont avec moi et les panélistes qui vont peut-être échanger avec vous sur les perspectives sur les partenaires qui sont ici avec nous. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I believe we'll just go straight and take the next intervention from His Excellency, the Permanent Representative, Prof. Bande. Please, could you just give us your own interjection? Thank you.
Well, let me, on behalf of the Permanent Mission of Nigeria to the United Nations, most sincerely thank the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the President himself, ably represented by the activist governor of Borno State, and also to Borno State governor in his own capacity for the wonderful work they've been doing to get us out of this very complex problem. I should like to also thank all the partner governors who have joined in this very important and historic effort. This effort is extremely important because it follows a tradition of connections between and among peoples of a region, a very vibrant region that has lately suffered all the ills as enunciated yesterday concerning Boko Haram activities and what they have meant in terms of disruption of lives and livelihoods in a very peaceful, hitherto peaceful place. And the very fact, Mr. Chairman, that all the governors, led by the governor of Borno State and governors of the neighboring countries are here, plus all the partners, plus a lot of NGOs, both local and foreign, indicates the seriousness with which this matter has been taken, so that, one, let's be clear, there is no lack of understanding as to the causes of this problem. And what is important is the partnership that has been forged in the last few years with very credible bodies to deal with the problem for now and also post-conflict, to see that it does not happen anywhere in this region and on the continent. From the perspective of the United Nations, all I can say is the perspective of representatives of the governments, the Security Council, to come in March last year to see for itself the issue is an extremely important one. But that effort indicated the effort underground to put the matter of the Lake Chad right where it belongs as a global problem. The governor of Borno State yesterday and the governor of Diffa showed the connections among climate, the economy, and conflict. The United Nations, through the effort of the Security Council, has understood and demonstrated through that visit of March last year the interconnection. This is not a small thing. It is extremely important. This is a council issue. This is the highest body in the world dealing with conflict. Quickly, we must make sure that the Secretary General follows through this year to see what has happened after the visit. This is extremely important. Now, for Nigeria and the representation of Nigeria at the UN, we can assure you that we have made, and I'm glad that our friends, even Chambers and your good self, and several others are in this room. There is no conflict in our understanding and the necessity we push this together. One, recharging the Lake Chad is extremely critical. We must push beyond this effort. This effort is extremely important because it's urgent. But going forward, we have to have very strong mechanisms to see that the lake is recharged. This is extremely important. All the issues we have dealt with emanate basically from that terrible reality. Next is the issue of coordination of efforts. The United Nations, under the current leadership, has really shown that the UN itself is reforming itself to work closer. Entities must work within the UN together. This synergy of effort, the UN working as one to deal with issues, is fundamental. This is what is demonstrated in this room today. All the NGOs, all the bodies are working together toward a common cause. There has been no dispute from yesterday to today as to what is important. Now, it was said yesterday by, I think, General Rabo, that we should focus on what is important rather than spending a lot of funds and we ignore infrastructure. Infrastructure is key, whether from the perspective of NGOs or from governments. Now, we are making effort as the representation of Nigeria to the United Nations. We are working very closely with Cameroon. Cameroon ambassador is the dean of the ambassadors at the UN. He is very, very much alive to this matter. We are working very closely with Niger. We are working very closely with Chad. And we are working closely with the African group, which is the strongest body in the UN that pushes things together to see that this matter is taken with the seriousness it deserves. What we are trying to do is to even have a forum systematically to review the attention given by the United Nations on this problem. I'm saying what I know we have been doing, but we are doing it collectively to make it even more permanent. I should thank all the organizers and the donors for the support they have given, not only here, even in the UN, we are connecting with them very closely. Norway, Sweden, UK, US, all of this. Let me just, Mr. Chairman, close. I do not want to give a lecture. An old teacher has a bad habit, but this is important. I needed to say this. I thank you greatly for this. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur. Nous aurons besoin de votre action efficace au niveau de New York pour continuer à mobiliser avec les autres ambassadeurs qui sont déjà sur le terrain. Je voudrais saluer la présence maintenant du co-président, l'ambassadeur Smith, qui vient de se joindre à nous. Et nous sommes très heureux de l'avoir parce qu'il a été un des artisans de l'organisation de cette conférence. Et je vais lui donner la parole pour lui donner des mots liminaires. Monsieur l'ambassadeur, vous avez la parole.
Want to work? Okay.
L'ambassadeur Smith est le directeur des questions africaines au ministère des Affaires étrangères de l'Allemagne.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much, and my apologies for being late and leaving the chair empty. Normally, when you're a German and you're late, people always think that you do it on purpose. It's very difficult. C'est très exigeant de temps en temps d'être allemand, donc. But there is a reason for me to be late, and I will tell you the reason. In the document that was prepared by UNDP for this conference that was talked about, there was one point in it, is listen to the communities. In many of the papers also, what is important is like a bottom-up approach, not top-down, and to come to the proximity. That's why we're here, that's why we're talking to you, the governors, and not just with central governments. So what we did this morning, also we tried to get at least a glimpse of listening to the communities, and we listened to some of the people who have been displaced by Boko Haram, who have been suffered. And I personally found it very impressive that you talk to people who have lost their husbands, who've lost their children, who've lost their siblings, who've lost their property, and when you ask them, would you be ready if the people who did this to you laid down their arms, would you be ready to forgive them? And the overwhelming answer was yes. So this was a very strong lesson in compassion and mercy. And despite all the difficulties that went through, I think this is a stark reminder that with these values, compassion and mercy, one can go forward, and it gives you a sense of optimism. Now coming back to the larger topic of the forum and what we do as international partners, we are extremely glad that this forum came into being, and it's the second day. I hope there will be a continuation of it. I hope that someone is ready to keep the ball rolling and to keep it also as a forum to consult and exchange. Because as I said before, in Berlin, we could already feel that there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to talk about in a structured way. So we would be very happy to continue to support this as partners, and also to bring the messages from this forum back into, I would say, the more international, the international level. And I'm very glad I'm sitting next to my colleague, the ambassador of Norway. So we would bring the experiences and the recommendations back into what was called the Oslo process. Now, when you talk to non-diplomats about the Oslo process, they would say, what is this process? But when you tell people, look, we're sitting down and we're listening first, and we can all see like what are our respective roles, what are the roles, what can be done best on the local level, but also what can we do as international partners, be it for humanitarian support, be it for the cooperation and security with the security sector, be it for the cooperation also in development. So to bring this together. And for me, the last day and the discussions, be it in the plenary, but also discussions on the sidelines, have been extremely helpful and have strengthened my resolve to do whatever we can do as partner from the German perspective with others to keep the issue on the agenda and to support all those who want to come to a constructive way to improve the lives of the people, so that maybe in a few years' time, the people who I met this morning would say, we have forgiven, we can never forget, but we have gone on with our lives, and our children will have a better life and a better future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Smith, and thanks for the commitment of German government. Now I give the floor to the Norwegian ambassador, Ambassador Jan Pitt.
Thank you. If you see the Oslo conference as a starting point of increased international attention to the Lake Chad crisis, and the Berlin conference as a starting point of increased local ownership to the conference, to the crisis, then the Maiduguri conference has successfully merged the two.
Hello.
I'll try again. If you see the Oslo conference as a starting point of an increased international attention to the Lake Chad crisis, and the Berlin conference as a starting point of increased local ownership, which I think from my German colleagues' interpretation you can see it like that. The Maiduguri conference has successfully merged the two in a sequence which also includes the N'Djamena meeting last fall, the Abuja meeting on the Lake Chad situation in February, and hopefully we can say Berlin conference to come up. And you need both the local ownership and the international attention. But first of all, you need local ownership. It's crucial, and I'll come back to that. The solutions has to be found by the national governments in the region, by the state governments and local governments, authorities, and by the local people, the youth in particular, the women in particular, to avoid continued marginalization as documented by the UNDP report recently. The crisis is economic and in a sense self-fulfilling. Insecurity undermines trade and economic activities. Economic development, lack of economic development feeds the crisis. Trade used to be the economic lifeline of the region and need to be revived. Absolutely necessary. Cross-border, and all of this will create jobs and hope. The crisis is also demographic, as there is an ongoing population explosion, as the Governor Shetima said yesterday. It is not sustainable, and it deepens the crisis. It has to be taken into consideration what to do. Women have been excluded from peace processes all over the world. I worked personally on the South Sudan peace process. The parties didn't want the women involved. It led, the peace agreement was never followed up, because you need half the population to be part of the solution. If women doesn't have a voice, you won't achieve sustainable peace. Further, this complex crisis cannot be solved militarily or by military or humanitarian interventions alone, and not by one country without the cooperation among the neighbors in both practical and strategic terms. You need to look into ceasefire negotiations, peace agreement negotiations, truth and reconciliation, and accountability for the perpetrators. It's all part of the solution. An end to the rebellion has to be negotiated. And when I say negotiated, it doesn't mean negotiated from a point of a weak military position or a defeat of the enemy, but a negotiated future, as my colleague Nicholas Wakira emphasized earlier. You have to win the mind and souls of the people, both inside Boko Haram raids ranks and outside. Resources must be made available by central and federal governments. That's what I meant by the local ownership, and locally, by business communities. The international community cannot replace government or national responsibility. If so, you lose control, you lose ownership, you lose dignity, and you lose trust of your people. Then you have a new and deeper crisis. You have to deliver, and we will support you. We believe from what we have seen here today and in the other conferences that you can make it. This conference is an example that everyone can pull in the same direction. Contrary to, for example, Somalia, South Sudan, and other serious conflicts, there is a unity of purpose and a unity of conviction in this hall. You have to utilize that to move forward together. We believe you can do it. We will continue to support you. Thank you.
Thank you. The INGO Forum represents 37 international organizations, 34 of which work here in northeast Nigeria, and many of them also work across the Lake Chad region in the areas of humanitarian development as well as peace building. And as the INGO community, we really welcome the conversations that we've had over the past day and a half. It's absolutely crucial that we work together to create peace and stability for the people in the region. I would like to start by echoing two elements that were mentioned by speakers yesterday and today as well. Firstly, we are still in a situation where in certain areas people's basic needs are still not met, and people are being displaced multiple times. So there needs to be a simultaneous expansion of life-saving assistance as well as longer-term development programming to enable populations to really rebuild their lives. And neither should be the focus to the detriment of the other. Secondly, we need to be clear on what we mean by stabilization. It can't be seen purely as a military approach. We would like to look at it as a people-centered approach. We want to stabilize the life of people affected by the crisis. And in order for us as INGOs to support this process, we need to be able to work in a cohesive operational environment where regulatory challenges related to anything from registration to importation of goods are minimized, and where physical access is promoted. So besides adopting a people-centered approach where affected communities are part of every stage of resilience and peace building, we also need to ensure that proper protection and conflict analysis underpins all of the programming. We need to look at how the violence and the trauma has affected communities and how social cohesion can be strengthened so that we avoid entrenching ongoing conflict dynamics and really address the root causes of the conflict. And in this process, we also need to recognize the gendered nature of the violence. And by that I mean looking at how boys and men and girls and women in different ways have been affected by the violence. And in addition, it's crucial that we recognize, and this has been raised several times, the important role that women can play in peace building. So we need to ensure that every CFA, Naira, Euro, Pound, Dollar that we spend in the region is context, conflict, gender, and social inclusion sensitive, and that the impact of interventions against these factors is monitored. So my last point is on accountability. Everyone in this room, whether we're a donor, a government, UN agency, or a local or international organization, we all need to be held accountable. I'm not only referring to how funds are spent, but also the commitments that we make and the different mandates that we have. We need to hold each other accountable, and we also need to be accountable towards the communities that we work with. To this end, we welcome, for example, the human rights desks that's been set up by the Nigerian military, and the protection of civilians policy that is now awaiting to be signed by President Buhari. So in conclusion, we welcome the concrete next steps that come out of this forum, as well as the increased regional coordination, and we look forward to being part of the ongoing process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Joanna. Now I give the floor to the representative of another important development partner, Tom Mugoya, African Development Bank.
All protocol observed, that I will specifically want to thank the host governor for these 2 days, which have been very, very useful, but I think his attendance throughout all the sessions shows the commitment of the governments of these affected states to bring change, bring back the Lake Chad region and bring it back better. From the perspective of the African Development Bank, reechoing what the other panelists have already said, the importance of local ownership, accountability, and community-driven approach. We will support the programs. We have already been supporting the programs from the Lake Chad Basin, that is at the regional level, and also at the specific country levels. And we are committed to increase this support. I mean, after this manifestation of these 2 days, which is in line with the bank's high fives, that is improve the quality of life of Africans, industrialize Africa, feed Africa, improve on regional cooperation. These are areas which are all relevant for this Lake Chad region. As we have heard over the 2 days, part of the causes of the conflict were the environmental degradation of the Lake Chad, and we are committed to supporting the Lake Chad restoration, including the support to the Lake Chad Basin, but specifically also to as the General mentioned yesterday, to optimize. We have ongoing studies on the optimization of the Yobe Kamadugu Basin, financed from the African Development Bank, and we hope to finance over the next few years projects emanating from those studies to the tune of $200 million. But through these studies, we will also be able to mobilize additional financing from other development partners. Because this is another key area that our assistance to the Lake Chad Basin and also to the specific riparian countries will be carried out in an integrated approach together with other development partners. Because already, with so much support coming in, the host governments and communities have a lot of needs to answer to. So if each development partner comes with their own conditions and implementation mechanisms, that will further overburden the state governments and will make it difficult to achieve what we want to achieve. So we'll be working jointly. If we take the example of Northeast Nigeria, we are working jointly with the World Bank and the Islamic Development Bank to have common approaches and common coordination mechanisms. Likewise, we would like to work with the humanitarian partners in the same approach. So, key takeaway from this 2 days, especially the testimonies today, is the governments are committed, the people are committed, and the development partners, at least the African Development Bank, will continue partnering with the region to bring it back to what it was, and even better than what it was, with youth employment as key in all the programming, gender, climate change, mitigation measures and adaptation measures, so that the region can thrive. So we are joining the other development partners in supporting the region to get back better than it was before. Thank you.
Je remercie le représentant de la Banque africaine de développement. Donc nous venons d'écouter les partenaires. Je vais peut-être prendre maintenant s'il y a 2 ou 3 commentaires et avec l'assistance pour que nous puissions discuter de cette question. Je voudrais simplement dire que effectivement les causes profondes ont déjà été identifiées pour cette crise de Boko Haram. Et il est aussi évident que nous avons non seulement des questions sécuritaires encore à régler, mais que le point le plus important, étant donné que les causes profondes de cette crise sont liées aux questions de développement, et que le relèvement de ces régions donc apparaît comme étant un impératif. Et je voudrais ici remercier tous les partenaires qui sont avec moi et ceux qui sont dans la salle, pour les encourager pour qu'on mobilise encore plus de ressources afin de venir aider tous les pays affectés par la crise. Je vais peut-être laisser la parole maintenant à notre...
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And yes, indeed, in thanking everyone, we can, just in the next 3 minutes, take one question. And I have a very earnest request coming from Dr. Ahmed Shehu for the CSO's network. May we have your question, please? Thank you. Very quickly, your interjection. The microphone.
This summit, and especially appreciate the Governor of Borno State for hosting this event. We have some quick recommendation from the civil society network of Lake Chad, among which I can read here. We want enhanced access to humanitarian organization and respect of international humanitarian law in the region. We also want the involvement of the affected populations, communities, and local civil society in program design and implementation. We're also recommending that deliberate attempt should be made at empowering the citizens through livelihood intervention so as to reduce economic pressure on Boko Haram recruitment. Then we are also recommended for the provision of access to land for IDPs and returnees to farm. This can be achieved through coordination through the security agencies in the region. Ensure that all returns in the regions are voluntary, with dignified and then informed. Then we also advise that there's need to strengthen dialogue with local leaders across the region. We're also requesting for the improved regional government visibility, impact, and presence and access across the shores of the Lake Chad. We're also recommending for the leveraging of local expertise and the presence of CBOs in the communities to respond to needs of affected population. Another recommendation is support the operation of civil society network of Lake Chad Basin to ensure effective monitoring and accountability of the commitment that is going to become of from this today's forum. We also want the creation and the support the harmonization of regional approach for prevention and stabilization in the region. We're also recommending that special focus of intervention should be on rural areas in the region that are deprived of basic needs before the advent of Boko Haram. Then, as I highlighted yesterday, construction of roads to allow easy access across the state in the region is also one of the points. Then finally, we also expect the development of a work plan at the end of this. Not only the development of the work plan, but also involvement of the civil society in monitoring of the plan so that we can be able to complement the effort of the governors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ahmed Shehu. Well, I'm certain that if we're going to clap, let's put our hands together and just appreciate very much all of the interventions of the CSOs. One more. There you are. Okay. Please, very quickly, can we have the microphone taken around?
I'm from the FAO Regional Office for Africa, based in Accra, Ghana.
Welcome.
I want to emphasize on the stabilization issue. FAO have already helped about 200,000 household farmers in providing farming inputs, water pumps, and rice seeds. FAO also have helped restocking, vaccinating animals, and we have provided around 90,000 animals. Also, FAO is helping families in providing fuel-saving stoves. Basically, we are intervening in stabilizing people where they live in their livelihood. And I want also to emphasize that FAO is ready to partner with anyone at this level to help people at their livelihood in their living place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stabilizing people where they live. Well, Your Excellency, I don't know, do we want to, my chair? I leave this completely. Okay.
Tous les panélistes pour leur contribution et nous sommes tous d'accord que le défi que nous devons relever, c'est le défi du développement. Et ce défi nécessitera la mobilisation de ressources très importantes pour venir mettre en place des infrastructures nécessaires, des infrastructures de base, développer les moyens de communication, les écoles, et faire en sorte que les causes profondes qui expliquent aujourd'hui cette crise, que nous puissions venir à bout de ces causes profondes. Et cela ne peut se faire que par le développement. Et c'est là où je voudrais remercier déjà l'engagement des partenaires extérieurs et aussi les États concernés pour qu'ensemble nous puissions continuer à travailler dans ce sens. Dans la perspective d'un développement durable, nous devons garder à l'esprit que le développement, le défi de développement, c'est la bataille à gagner. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause. Let's appreciate His Excellency for co-chairing with such technical accuracy, and as well as all of their excellencies here on the platform today. We appreciate very much all of those interventions.
Special recognition to His Excellency, Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Muhammadu Buhari, represented by His Excellency Alhaji Kashim Shatima, the Governor of Borno State. All the governors, all the special guests, all protocols observed, please. I am here at this opportunity where you have gathering of all the relevant administrators of Lake Chad Basin, comprising of governors of Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and Nigeria, to present a simple document introduced by my Comptroller General called Passport to Safe Migration. In this booklet, there is extended information on all what is required for safe migration. However, I wish to introduce the subject first. Migration, or what we call international migration, has been before the age of globalization. And what differs is the speed, complexity, and the volume of migration. From 244 million in 2015, it is expected to rise to 405 million in 2050. Even those on diaspora, Nigerians in diaspora, from 5 million, they are expected to reach 50 million. What is contained here is the risks involved in migration, especially the illegal migration conducted through our border posts, through our illegal routes. Nigeria has about 744 illegal routes. And these people knew how they can go through those routes. It is important to note that the migrants have their own rights, and the rights are continuously abused. And this medium or this forum is in a critical position to get those rights and the illegal way these illegal migrations are happening controlled. However, in line with its mandate, the service has gone ahead in moving many silent issues to real critical solution. And I will only talk about aggressive awareness campaign to highlight the risk of and dangers involved in irregular travels, and that is which is happening. One, you see, we are talking of illegal human trafficking. Some parents, with their own consent, they release very underage minors to people they don't even know, so that they go on promise that they will be bringing them money back home. We, as much as possible, have control to that. However, what is most important is that they should realize that there are very serious risks involved. And these risks are, one, they can lead to your death. Two, journey across the Sahara, anything can happen. The BH can attack you. You can have accidents. The boats can sink, and many other things that are much turbulent than what can be explained within the short, limited time. But see, my friend, see, please, please distribute this. There are addresses of organizations that are relevant. There are addresses of countries that you can contact. There are, in fact, it's self-explanatory.
Of the night shall be a wrap-up with the presentation of the joint communique by the Honorable Commissioner for M222 here in Borno State, and we shall flow into the closing ceremony. So having said that, may I ask for His Excellency, our very distinguished host governor for the Governors Forum, to please do us the honor of his first opening remarks. And he would prefer to use the microphone. Could we have, please, could I have a microphone, a roving microphone, please? Cordless microphone, it's working.
Oh, can I go there? Can I come?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wish to stand on established protocol. We had had 2 days of very fruitful cross-pollination of ideas on how to move the Lake Chad region forward. The problems of the Lake Chad region are complex, composite, and interwoven. But there is a common thread that runs through the entire landscape. Apart from the fact that most of the peoples of this region belong to the Neo-Saharan phylum in terms of ethnic affiliation, and a chunk of the Lake Chad Basin belongs to the realm of the old Kanem-Borno Empire. The common denominator is the endemic poverty, destitution, illiteracy that permeates the entire landscape. The World Bank described the Republic of Niger, the Republic of Chad, northeastern part of Nigeria, and northeastern Cameroon plus the Darfur region of Sudan as some of the poorest places on earth. Hence the emergence of militant organizations like the Janjaweed militia and the Boko Haram in those parts of the world. So as I said, the problems are complex, composite, and interwoven. And for us to find a solution to the challenges, it requires a holistic approach encompassing the military, the economic, and the political. It's foolhardy for anyone to harbor the illusion that there is a military solution to the crisis in the Lake Chad region. There has to be a holistic approach, and as I've repeatedly said, beneath the mayhem of Boko Haram, underneath the nihilism lies the real cause, which is extreme poverty. Once we engage the youth, once we create jobs, once we address the challenges of desertification, deforestation, and destitution, this madness will be over. The recharging of the Lake Chad is a major task, and His Excellency Mohammed Ibn Chamba has been agitating that it should be one of the major strategic priorities of the African Union. But for us to stabilize the region, we have to make conscious efforts to invest in the people, improve on the quality of governance, create jobs. Like according to the peace building assessment conducted by the World Bank in partnership with the European Union and the Presidency of Nigeria. In Borno alone, we harvested a total number of 54,911 widows and 52,311 orphans. These orphans and widows, is in our enlightened self-interest to either take care of them or 10 years 15 years down the line, there will be the Frankenstein monsters that will wipe us up from the surface of the earth. So there has to be conscious effort at gender empowerment initiatives. There is a saying among the Pante people of Ghana, if you educate a man, you have educated an individual. If you educate a girl child, you have educated a nation. I'm a feminist, unabashedly feminist. I believe in girl child education. I believe in gender empowerment. And believe me, collectively, as a people, we shall push our society forward. It's not all about lamentation. The word for crisis in the Chinese language is wei des. Wei stands for danger, and des for opportunity. I believe that the current crisis in the Lake Chad region, as terrible as it is, also provides us an opportunity to re-engineer our society to a better place. Move our people from the pre-industrial age to the post-industrial age. Leapfrog them by investing in digital education, by investing in job creation, especially in agriculture. And once the youth are able to have a foothold in the work session of the 21st century, this madness will disappear. We have to address issues of population explosion. I was telling Ambassador Bridget that one of my chieftains has 4 wives and 38 children and still counting. I think procreation without responsibility is lunacy. We are not averse to people. But before you bring forth kids to the world, you should be honorable enough, reasonable enough to take care of their needs. We have the highest number of out-of-school children. Poverty in Nigeria wears a northern face. We have become a global nuisance. And by 2050, Nigeria is expected to be the third most populous nation on earth with a population of 440 million. And by 2050, it is projected that 70% of Nigerians will live in northern Nigeria. With desertification, deforestation, endemic poverty, pervasive illiteracy, unless we wear our thinking caps as leaders, improve on the quality of governance, be proactive, be committed to genuine partnerships with other development partners, the anticipated demographic bulge will be a demographic disaster. But by proactive solutions, believe me, Your Excellencies, I am an eternal optimist. If we are proactive, if we wear our thinking caps, we can turn the anticipated demographic bulge into demographic dividends. I want to raise my case because there are other speakers, so I don't want to dominate the show. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Please, another round of applause for His Excellency, our host governor. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, Honorable Kashim Shettima has articulated it. He says he is an unapologetic optimist. He is a he for she champion for the woman, girl, child. More importantly, it's not about the lamentations, it's about re-engineering the tragedy into a new opportunity for his community. Another round of applause for him. Thank you. Well, stabilization demands a conscious effort to invest in the people. Give it a human face, and the UN says it, empowered lives, resilient nations. Co-chair, His Excellency Dr. Ibn Chambers, UN Special Representative of the Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel. Over to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, our mistress of ceremony. You have been fantastic, you've been excellent, kept our discussions alive, and we thank you. Just a few points. First and foremost, once again, to express our deep appreciation to His Excellency, Governor Kashim Shettima, our host, our chief host, who together with his brother from the twin state of Adamawa, His Excellency Senator Mohammed Umar Jibrila, have excellently shown us warm hospitality and made all these excellent arrangements to ensure a successful meeting. We deeply appreciate that, but especially also their key hosts, their chief hosts, the governors who have come, governors of LCBC countries, from Niger, to my immediate right, from Chad, from Cameroon, who have come to demonstrate that indeed they are all standing together in this common fight against Boko Haram and the consequences of this terrorist fight in the northeast of Nigeria and the LCBC countries. I believe that we all appreciate that this fight has a regional dimension. The consequences have been clear for all to see, and that's why we're also happy that the LCBC has been here, the person of its executive secretary, Ambassador Nuhu, who has been very active participating in this conference. Of course, along with his force commander. Force commander, we appreciate the gallant work you are engaged in. It is not an easy fight. It is a difficult fight in a difficult terrain. But in spite of that, you and your men of the MNJTF have demonstrated a real determination to root Boko Haram from this part of our region, our West and Central Africa region. We appreciate your fight. We also are happy that the African Union is here, the ECOWAS is here, and the ECAS. Regional dimension of this fight requires their full commitment and engagement. We spoke about the need to recharge the lake. This will require all of them taking this as a priority, but especially the African Union. So the representative of African Union who is here, if there's one message you can take back, it is that we are all asking that the recharging of the lake should be an African strategic project that will bring back so many possibilities and potentialities to the area, restoring the ecology and the environment, creating greater opportunities for agriculture, for animal husbandry, for fishery, and so many other livelihood activities. The other point is that we, as partners, again, I think I speak on behalf of my UN colleague, the RC and his team, and the other UN agencies who are here, but of course, our development partners. When I say that we want to see this have continuity, we have greatly appreciated the opportunity for these exchanges with you, Excellencies, governors, and we hope that this is a first, but it will certainly not be the last, and that we'll have an opportunity to continue to engage with you. You are operating at the local level, and the greatest impact is going to be at that level, at the level of the states and the local governments and the prefects and the sous-prefect. That is where the communities are, that is where the people are, and we must begin to see impact. There's a security dimension to the crisis, an obvious humanitarian dimension, but we want to also move along the continuum to early recovery, early development, and to a development phase. So we begin to integrate Sustainable Development Goal objectives, AU Agenda 2063 objectives, ECOWAS and ECAS development objectives to tackle poverty and youth unemployment and gender issues and population and climate change issues. So to do that, we need to work together. Yes, with national governments, but very, very much so with you, governors, and your local government administrations at the grassroots level. So we appreciate this commitment that you have demonstrated, and we in turn want to pledge that we will continue to see you as partners in this very noble struggle to defeat Boko Haram, to take back the lives of the people and to turn it around for more positive and constructive development. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.